Hi, this is Micornus Phokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. Today I want to teach about how to deal with a guest speaker who is teaching an error on your pulpit. How to deal with a guest speaker who is teaching an error on your platform. We speak about inviting ministers here. There are those ministers that you invite. Some of them, you don't know them personally. They've been referred to you maybe by other people and reputable people that you know, which of course as Church Governance Solutions, we do discourage that, because there are times when you invite people that you've never seen, people that you've never met, people that you've never known, people you've never known what they believe in. Now, because you've never known these people, therefore you are actually inviting them to your conference with a hope that they will teach the right things. And these days it's even easier because you are able actually to see people on socials and you can actually follow them for a while to be able to know exactly what this person is teaching and know what doctrine they are teaching. But if you are not privy to know that in advance, all of a sudden somebody is teaching an error on your pulpit, we want to speak about how then do you deal with such incident whereby someone is on your pulpit already and teaching an error. So I want to speak about that today. The first thing that I must emphasize is that you need to verify if the error is intentional or pure ignorance, because there are times when somebody speaks about something that is pure ignorance, not necessarily that it is an error that is intentional. For an example, if somebody is going to speak about Joshua and therefore keep on saying Moses, somebody is going to speak about Peter but keep on saying Paul, that might be an error that is out of ignorance, because maybe this person believes strongly that this particular individual that I'm speaking about is Paul instead of Peter. Now, that's an error of ignorance. And also, when you look at an error of ignorance generally, it may not be detrimental, because error of ignorance generally would not be doctrinal in nature. And I must emphasize this is very important, because when an error is actually taught with intention, it becomes very doctrinal in nature, and doctrinal errors are actually deception in nature. Because what they will do, they're actually drifting people from the core beliefs, or what we call foundational belief system. And when it is something that drifts the people away from that, that becomes very, very detrimental. For an example, if somebody all of a sudden will emphasize the fact that Joseph was married to Mary, and they actually, Mary was not a virgin, they've actually been staying together for a very long time, and Mary is not a virgin, that is an error that is very detrimental. Why is it so detrimental? Because it twisted the whole doctrine of the virgin birth of Jesus Christ, which is very crucial, because the virgin birth is not something that you can take light. Because the virgin birth therefore would mean that it is true that Jesus was born of the Spirit. And that's very key, because if Jesus was born out of the seed of man, which will be Joseph, he would have not qualified to die on the cross for us. Because on the cross, we needed somebody pure, somebody holy, somebody who is not tainted by the seed of man. We needed somebody who is the seed of the woman, not the seed of the man. You see how the doctrine then, therefore, becomes very influential. So therefore, we cannot allow somebody on the pulpit to emphasize teaching that Mary was not a virgin. That is detrimental. Now, I want to emphasize that make sure, therefore, that the error is not intentional, that the error is really something that is not dangerous enough, or it doesn't twist the gospel completely, because that becomes detrimental. And as I've given these examples, I hope this makes sense to you. Now, the other thing that you need to do is identify if the error is doctrinal or just ignorance, as I've said, because the doctrinal one becomes very dangerous. As I said, it twists the whole view, it twists the whole statement of faith or the belief system of Christianity. And that becomes dangerous because then it's twisting people. And of course, we've seen in the days that we're living in that people are teaching the so-called hyper grace. And that's doctrinal error. And when people teach something like that, they're actually deviating people from understanding that God is a loving God. But yet, while God is a loving God, God is also just. Now, the just of God, it would mean then, therefore, that God is actually judging people fairly and is justly as well. So, because this is very important why we bring this up. Because that would mean that as much as God is forgiving, but God cannot tolerate sin. So therefore, the hyper grace gospel will be teaching people that once born again, always born again. And therefore, it drifts people from actually yearning to become holy. It actually teaches people from aspiring to become godly and righteous and holy, or to live for God, to become pure. It actually makes people to relax and say, it is okay because once born again, I'm born again. And therefore it promotes people to live actually the way they want to live. And I want to emphasize that because that becomes what we call doctrinal error. Now, also the other thing is doctrinal error is agent to correct. Therefore, you cannot sit behind and waste time and not correct it immediately, because the more you sit down, the more it actually is infused in the minds of the people. And the more it's actually teaching the people a shape of some sort of approach of Christianity that is devious to the true word of God. That pollutes the word of God. And that becomes very ancient to correct. So therefore, please, if it's a doctrinal error, correct it urgently. It is also based on seriousness. Stop the minister immediately if the error is actually something that's urgent to correct. Stop them immediately, because there are times when doctrinal error will infuse the longer you take. There are those errors that you can correct them later. But doctrinal error is dangerous to leave it until the person finishes, because by the time the person finishes, there are people that have bought into this error doctrine. And that becomes dangerous. And you have actually now dangerously infused something into your church, and you're going to deal with a lot of demons thereafter that. And that's crazy if you leave somebody to continue with an error that is detrimental, like doctrinal error, for a very long time, and hope that you'll correct it only after the service. And this is very important that we speak about right now. Now, confront the minister privately to address your concerns, particularly if it's something that is not urgent to stop. So make sure that you are going to after after they have delivered the sermon, and it's something that's not really very detrimental, you can then approach them privately, speak to them, and tell them you don't appreciate the error that they've done and the damage that they've done, and that's something that you can correct thereafter. I'm just emphasizing this particularly on an error that is correctable, or an error that is not doctrinal, something that's not too dangerous to leave for somebody to finish it. And you approach them as a brother, you approach them as a sister, and make sure that you correct that immediately after that. If doctrinal and intentional, cancel the next session, because there are those that you've actually scheduled them maybe to minister twice, 3 times in your conference. Those that you've given them more days to minister, please, if you correct that or you stop them from the pulpit, cancel the next sessions, because you are actually going to run into a risk of exposing your own members to wrong doctrine even further. You're going to actually expose them for longer time, because if you allow the next session to continue, then you're killing your own people intentionally here. Now, I want to emphasize that cancel, therefore, the next sessions if it's somebody that has taught error now and you've corrected it right on the pulpit or stopped them from continuing. Therefore, cancel the next sessions and make sure that the speaker knows that you're not impressed. The speaker knows that you don't want them to continue with what they've started, and you don't want them to continue with the next sessions as well. So please, if you have to reimburse them, so reimburse them while they're leaving. So pay them for their petrol cost and make sure that they leave immediately, because otherwise they are going to influence negatively your conference, because if they hang around, there are people that may want to engage them and want to ask questions that will even further engage the people on the floor, even though they are not on the pulpit anymore. So this is very important. This is the type of intervention that you do. Let the person go immediately. As I said, if they've used the petrol to come through, please let them be reimbursed for their petrol and let them drive back in good spirit. So that's very dangerous if you leave them around. Never invite such a speaker again. I'm emphasizing this because we have seen people that allow somebody to come and teach error, and after that they continue inviting this person, and they continue making sure that this person comes again. And I want to emphasize as Church Governance Solutions that please make sure that a speaker like that who's teaching error, you never invite them again. But also as a pastor or as a visionary, be able to explore individuals before you invite them in any case. And when you have actually allowed them to come and minister and they minister an error, make sure that you also don't invite them again, because you might expose your own members to these wrong doctrines that people are teaching. I want to end up here today, your host, Micornus Phokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and being part of this great topic. And as I said, we actually posted this on the YouTube channel. So please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you also be part of these great teachings by clicking notification button that will actually notify you of any video that we put on of this kind of teachings. And our social networks, Micornus Phokane on Facebook, and make sure that you also like our page, Church Governance Solutions, and that will help you as well to follow us as we teach this type of teachings going forward. May the good Lord bless you, and allow me once more to say cheers for now.